Welcome to episode 11 of The Player and the Journalist with David Vick and Karson Harris. In this episode, we will be discussing important transfers, new head coaches, conference changes, and Division II teams making the jump to Division I. Special episode today, not just number 11, but we have a new co-host in Karson Harris, a beast from the University of Drexel, just graduated, won a conference championship in her 5th year. She's just a beast, previous All-American. Karson, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you share with the audience how good of a lacrosse player you are? No need to be humble here.
Oh God. Okay. Let's see. So I do currently hold 3 records at Drexel. I am the all-time leading goal scorer. I have the all-time draw control record, and I also have the single season goal record. I am also the current CAA all-time draw control leader.
What?
I was a All-American and an honorable mention All-American my senior and 5th year senior year. Captain last year, and yeah, that's what I got off the top of my head for you.
Hey, that's a long list of accolades, more than I'll ever have for anything I do in life. So thank you. This is going to be super exciting. I do want to thank Julianna Riehl. She did a great job. She just got really busy. So in comes Karson Harris. So here we go. This is going to be a very fun episode. Fall ball has recently started, so we have a lot of things to discuss with transfers, coaches, and all of the above to really kind of get you prepared for the upcoming season. So we will start with transfers. And as you can imagine, there's a long list of transfers with the transfer portal. Probably will be the case each year going forward because players take advantage of the transfer portal now. So I have a few that I'm going to mention, and then we'll kind of exchange thoughts and just go from there. So Tayler Warehime transferred out of North Carolina. I'm a big fan of her. Okay, she was number 22 in blue. Okay, big fan. I think she's going to be, I could be wrong. I think when I checked Florida's roster, she was 38, I think maybe. So that'll take some getting used to. I don't know why they didn't give her a better number. She's going to be one of the best players on the team. Anyways. Okay. So she played at North Carolina, won a national championship last season. She is an attack, and obviously North Carolina's attack has been just so incredibly deep the past few years, as with every position at UNC. They're just absolutely insane. And so last year, she really didn't play a whole lot. But going back to the year before, she started almost every single game, was a huge part of their team. That was when they lost to Boston College in the Final Four. So I'm super excited to see her play again. She's a great player, and as a fan, we want the best players on the field, and I think she's one of the best players in the country. She's going to show out this year for Florida. Pairing her with Emma LaPinto, who was incredible last season, I think that's going to be just a crazy pairing. You got Danielle Pavanelli. I mean, Florida's going to be really exciting, really fun to watch this year. And Tayler Warehime is going to remind people how good she is. Okay, she is the real deal. Let me tell you, people. Okay, I'm not making this up. Okay, she is the real deal.
I think even, going off of that, I think Florida is a really young team. They have, I think, literally with the exception of 2 girls on their midfield, almost they don't have any other seniors on the field. I'm pretty sure that's correct. So I think adding her to the field is just going to be huge for her. Being a captain, she has this incredible experience at such a high level, I think is going to really help Florida out a lot this year. Another one is Marge Donovan. She is transferring from Princeton to Maryland as a defender. She also played for the US Sixes World Championship team, which I think just shows how versatile of a player that she is. She can take it coast to coast. She can cause turnover on one end, assist on the other. I think with her speed, and she's got incredible vision. And I think she, call me crazy, could be the next like Lizzie Colson for Maryland, just with her ability to carry the ball up the field and make huge plays.
Yeah, so this one caught me off guard a little bit, not going to lie. So she was a 4-year starter at Princeton, and this one just really surprised me. I don't know if it's because Princeton has a new coach and she just kind of didn't want to be a part of that. I'm not really sure. I don't want to speculate. But I don't know. Going from Princeton to Maryland, she's obviously a great player. Previously an All-American. Like you said, she plays for Team USA Sixes. I don't know. For some reason, her transferring really caught me off guard. She's going to be great for the Terps, but I don't know. It's just definitely not what I expected heading into the offseason.
I agree. I feel like she has a really strong community in Princeton, so that
For sure.
switch was surprising to me as well.
So another one who I am a huge fan of is Julianna Sanchez. Most people probably do not know her, but I have seen her play in person, and she is a game changer. Okay, she is amazing. I love Julianna Sanchez. If I could get her autograph right now, I would. I would love to have her on the show. I would love an autographed jersey, Julianna, if you're listening. So she transferred from Campbell to Mount St. Mary's. So this is a transfer that most people probably don't know about because it's two smaller schools. Obviously, Mount St. Mary's has won their conference the past few years and gone to the NCAA tournament, but still a smaller school in terms of the big picture. Fun fact, Lizzie Colson's sister plays for Mount St. Mary's. If you didn't know that, now you do. So Julianna Sanchez, she was a huge player for Campbell, a small school in North Carolina for her first few years, played her first 3 years there. She plays attack. She takes the draw. She is just a beast for them. She's fun to watch. She plays the game the right way. She's electric. She goes, talk about coast to coast. She goes from midfield to the rest of the coast, okay? Because she wins the draw and goes to the cage, okay? So Julianna Sanchez, she has 83 career goals, 234 career draw controls, and I am just a big fan of her. A lot of attention gets put on, obviously, the best teams in the country, the ranked teams, and the big name teams, which is understandable. But Julianna Sanchez is a fun player to watch. She's going to be a huge piece for Mount St. Mary's as they look to win another conference championship. They're going to be in a new conference this year, but I truly believe that Julianna Sanchez is going to be a great player for them. And when I saw that she transferred to Mount St. Mary's, I was just like, what? This is so exciting because she's like a star, you know? Well, to me, she's a star. Okay, she's a star to everyone. People just don't know her. Okay, you got to watch her. Okay, you got to watch other teams other than North Carolina, Boston College, and Drexel. Okay, shout out Drexel. So yes, Julianna Sanchez entering her senior year at Mount St. Mary's is going to be lethal. So who do you got next, Karson?
I have Margot Hotham, which I think, speaking along the lines of surprising transfers, going from Temple to Oregon. I know Temple, they always produce super strong defenders. She is one of them. She started 17 games for them last year. And I think her family all played in Pennsylvania. They all played for colleges in Pennsylvania. So I think Oregon is an interesting choice. Temple was ranked 22nd last year. They had an incredible season. I think they were on top of the world. So, and she was playing for them. So I think going to Oregon, I would love to know like the reasoning behind that. I obviously don't want to speculate either because I don't know. But I do think that was an interesting call for her as well. She was fifth year senior. She's now going to be a fifth year senior. But yeah, it could also be huge for Oregon in a step in the right direction as well. So
you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I think. So Oregon, they've really struggled for the past few years. They just really struggled. Last year was a step in the right direction for them. It might not show in the win total, but just going off watching their games, they were a lot more competitive than the year before. I think Chelsea Campbell-Hoffman, their head coach, has things going in the right direction. They have twins on the team, the Cleveland sisters. Shout out Gabby Cleveland for supporting lacrosse extras. She was a true freshman last year, and she just plays super hard. I'm a big fan of her. But sticking with Margot Hotham, so it's very interesting, like you said, because she's going from Temple, a ranked team, a team that's always in the national conversation to make the NCAA tournament. They're just a known team and a consistently good program. And so for her to leave a program like Temple to go to Oregon, going from East Coast to West Coast is just very interesting. And it's not like she's going from the East Coast to the West Coast to a team like USC, who's a consistent winner. She's going to Oregon, who has really struggled. Even going back to a few years ago when they had Katrina Dowd as their head coach, they really struggled, and that didn't work out. And now they have Chelsea Campbell-Hoffman, who's been there for a few years now. And I think this is a sign that she's really starting to build something there, because not saying that Margot is Courtney Tayler, no disrespect, but Courtney Tayler, when she transferred to Boston College, like she was just incredible, like one of the best defenders, like on the field, if probably the best defender on the field each game. And most people didn't know who she was before that year because she played at Temple. Okay. So I don't think this is going to be exactly the same because she doesn't have the same experience as Courtney before transferring, but it's a really good sign for Oregon that they're getting a player who started at a program like Temple.
Right.
And so basically, just to sum up all my words that I just spit out, I believe Oregon is heading in the right direction. And perhaps this is the year where they finish with a winning record. So they're going to be fun to watch. Of course, they're Oregon. They have super nice facilities, super nice uniforms. I love their throwback uniforms, by the way. So yes, they are amazing. Do you have any speculation on how Oregon's going to do this year?
Oh God, I think that's tough. I think that they did have a good program. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to build a program that's I know from experience that it takes a couple of years to build a program that ends up on top. So I think that if they had a good season last year, that they'll keep building on that and they will be better. I would give them like a 500 maybe. We'll split the wins and losses this year, see how it goes, and then ask me again next year, and then we'll see how we'll see if the tables turn. I'll give them 500
Awesome.
this year.
So a few more big time players. So Katie Riehl, so she might be known by Boston College fans because obviously Boston College has one of the biggest social media followings. So she was there for 2 years, only played in 2 games, which I don't think that's a knock on her at all. I think that's when you go to Boston College, the same with North Carolina. It is so deep. It is hard to get on the field. I mean, it is very hard to get on the field. I mean, you can go back to a few years ago when Rachel Hall transferred in and took over the starting goalie position from Abby Nye. Abby Nye just led them to the national championship the year before and got benched for Rachel Hall. Okay, that just shows you the depth at Boston College. Okay, it is just Boston College, Syracuse, Maryland, North Carolina. The depth is unreal. Okay, so she's transferring from Boston College down to Richmond, who is an exciting program and a program that's consistently good. Of course, a few years ago during the COVID shortened season, they were going crazy. They beat Virginia. They were jumped into the top 10 in the national rankings, and the season ended because of COVID. So who knows how that would have panned out. Last year, not as good for them. But they did have a new head coach, as their previous head coach went to Clemson, Allison Kolek. That should be an exciting team to watch this year. But anyways, focusing on Katie Riehl, I'll stop getting sidetracked by my fandom of lacrosse. Okay, Katie Riehl. She's going to be a junior. I expect her to start for Richmond. If she doesn't start at Richmond, I'd be very surprised. Nothing against Richmond and their attackers. I mean, they produced some really good players. Sam Geiersbach left Richmond to North Carolina and became a legend in the Final Four last year against Northwestern. Okay. So Katie Riehl, I'm excited to see what she can do. I think her motivation will be extremely high. She's going to a team that's already good, and she hasn't played a whole lot. So she has something to prove, I would say, to a lot of people. She knows how good she is. Boston College knows how good she is. We don't know that as fans because we haven't seen her play. So I'm very excited to see her play for Richmond. And same with Oregon. I think Richmond getting a player of her caliber, if she was recruited to Boston College, that means she's really good. So if she's going to Richmond, she should be a star for them. So I'm excited to see what she does. And I also love that she didn't transfer to a Maryland or a top 10 program, like just one of the national brands. I love parity in the sport. And I think that's something that's been lacking. I think last year was the most parity we've had in a while. And I think her going to Richmond is going to help that team. It's going to be good for college lacrosse. It's going to be good for us as fans. So I'm very excited to see her play.
Yeah, I love watching Richmond play. They are one of those teams that I just love. I think they're so dynamic and fast paced, and their stick skills are just so fun to watch. So I think she'll be a huge addition to them. I agree. Molly LaLiberty is transferring from Tufts to Northwestern, which I think is an insane transfer. I just think that going from Tufts, who is always competitive, but not quite to the same caliber of the Northwestern lacrosse program. I mean, she was D3 goalie of the year. She's led 11 total goals in her 3 years playing, which is incredible. And so she's obviously an incredible player, obviously an incredible goalie, and she totally deserves to be at Northwestern. I just think it's going to be such an interesting transition to watch play out. Northwestern has a lot of goalies also, which is going to be interesting. They think they have 3 on their roster, potentially now 4, honestly. They had Helena Harris played in 8 games, but only had a season high of 18 minutes in 1 game. And then they had Logan, who also had a season high of only 5 minutes playing in 4 games. So she's definitely got room to get herself in there and play and become the starter for Northwestern, which I think would be just a huge win for all programs not currently ranked right now. I think that would be a huge win for all of them. So I'm really excited to see how she plays out and watch that battle for the goal cage at Northwestern. I think it'll be really interesting to see who comes out on top of that one.
For sure. So I have a little bit of a hot take here. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, but I think Madison Doucette, great goalie. Okay. But she couldn't make a save in the second half against North Carolina when they absolutely collapsed. Okay. A collapse for the ages. Okay. And listen, I love Kelly and Monty Hiller. She's one of my favorite coaches in the country. I just have to be honest. They collapsed. There's no way they should have lost that game. Just no way whatsoever. They had the life sucked out of them like Voldemort from Harry Potter was on the field sucking the life out of them. Okay. And it was just, it was hard to watch. Okay. Because they were the underdogs going into that game. They had it won. Okay. They had the game won. They just had to play half decent for the second half and they would have won the game. So that was hard to watch. I think if they can get the goalie position figured out, I think they're going to be a national championship contender. And like I said, Madison Doucette, great player, but not all saves come equal. You have to be able to make saves when your team is struggling. You have to be able to make saves in the big time moments. And she did not do that against North Carolina. Okay. If one or two saves here and there, who knows how that game would have turned out in the second half, because you get a save in the big time moment. You stop the momentum, you calm your team down, you get the ball back to Lauren Gilbert on offense. Okay. She just came up short, honestly. So I feel like if they can get the goalie position figured out, and Rachel Hall is a great example of this. Struggled last year, gets to the Final Four, and she played really good in the Final Four game against Maryland. I mean, she really struggled. She would tell you that she would struggle. I'm not being critical here. She did not have as good of a season last year as she did the year before. And if you go back to the year before when Boston College won the national championship, Final Four, Rachel Hall was insane. Okay, goated, 99 overall. Okay, it was insane. You have to play your best in the biggest games, and especially at the goalie position, because the goalie position can keep you in games or it can lose you games, because it's just the most important position on the field, in my opinion. So Molly LaLiberty going Northwestern, she's got some swag, got some energy to her. I personally, as a fan, I hope she wins the battle, just because I want to see that kind of energy on the field. I love when players show their emotion. She does that. So I am rooting for her to win that, but obviously it's not going to be easy. She's coming from a lower division, going to Northwestern, who, again, gets the best recruits in the country. They have incredible facilities, one of the best coaches in the country, a proven program who's consistently going to be battling for Big Ten championships. So that will be very interesting to watch how that plays out, like you said. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. And that's kind of why I wish fall ball games were able to be watched like streaming, because then we'd be able to see instead of waiting and waiting and waiting. So, but hey, maybe I'll reach out to Coach Kelly Montehiller and see if we can get a little announcement on that.
Inside scoop.
So yes, we just went over about 6 big time transfers, in our opinion, big time transfers, and hopefully that was enlightening. Moving on to new Division I head coaches. There's a laundry list of new head coaches. A lot of coaches left. Some coaches got let go, but there's a lot of new head coaches. So Karson, which ones do you have your eyes on for the 2023 season?
I think to start, I'm very curious to see UMass play out. They went 16-4 last year. They had an incredible season. They now have Jana Drummond as their new head coach. And she was their assistant for a couple of years. She's been there for 6 years, I think. So at first, when you hear about a new head coach, you've had a really good season, you get a new head coach. That can always be a really scary transition, just because it always takes a while to adjust to the players are adjusting to the head coach is adjusting to the players. That's always a kind of a walk the line situation. So I think that it's very exciting for them that they just picked up their assistant as their new head coach, and it will definitely help them carry their momentum from last year into their season for this year.
Fun fact about that. So their previous head coach was there for a long time, and she stepped down to go coach high school lacrosse. So, which I think is super cool. She just wanted a change in pace, wanted to spend more time with her family. Shout out to her for making that decision. I think it's very respectable and definitely not something you see every day. So very interesting. Eastern Michigan. They're building something up in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Okay. Don't ask me how to spell that because I don't know. Sarah Tisdale came over from Central Michigan, where they actually won the MAC last year and went to the NCAA tournament. So she was at Central Michigan for a long time. I'm not sure the exact year total, but it was a while. She had been there for a while, led the program, and like I said, led them to the NCAA tournament last year. She decided to step down, and she took the job at Eastern Michigan. So she's staying in Michigan, moving to Ypsilanti, okay, going from being a Chippewa to an unknown mascot, which I can't remember the name of the Eastern Michigan mascot right now. Embarrassing. But I'm interested to see Eastern Michigan because they're a new program. I think it's always very exciting to see new programs get started because there's always this exciting unknown. You don't know what exactly you're going to get. Obviously, Pitt was a little bit of an exception last year with how good they were, in my opinion, and that was in the ACC. But anyway, so Eastern Michigan starting this season to compete for the first time at the D1 level. And this program has kind of been a rocky start. So they had a head coach. She stepped down, and she was basically assigned to build the program from scratch. So I'm not sure the year. I think it was after a year or so she stepped down. And so now they have a new head coach. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they do in year one. Obviously, they're not a big name school. I don't think they're going to be getting big name recruits, but it's exciting to see a new program compete. It's exciting for the growth of the sport to see a new program in Michigan, which is not really a hotbed for the sport. Obviously, Izzy Skane came out of Michigan, but who else? Okay. So I'm excited to see what Eastern Michigan does in the MAC, a conference that I think Sarah Tisdale, she's a proven winner in that conference. So I think she'll build Eastern Michigan up, and I think that will add depth to that conference. Will they be going to the NCAA tournament this year? No. But that's not the measurement for their season in year one. So I'm excited to see what they do. And Sarah Tisdale, 625 career winning percentage as a head coach, pretty good. I'm excited to see what Eastern Michigan does. Who do you have next?
I think next I'm gonna talk a little bit about just the transition of Arizona State to Hopkins. I think Arizona State losing him is going to be tough. I believe he was in his first year last year with them, possibly second, maybe first, I think first. And he just catapulted them into this incredible team that was having big games and having huge wins. I think they topped off Rutgers last year, and Rutgers was having such an incredible season. They were a fun team to watch last year, and you could see them kind of blossoming. So I do think that it's tough for them to lose him. But I am excited to see what Taryn Banthoff does with them. She's walking into a team who has now experience winning, has experience being that fast-paced team. So she's got the pieces, and I'm hoping for her and for the team that she's able to put that together and kind of continue their momentum that they had last year that Tim built there. And then going into that with Hopkins, gaining Tim, I think that's going to be a huge, huge win for them. He has proven that he can take teams to the next level already. And I know that all of the girls there actually loved him as a head coach. So I think Hopkins has always been kind of on the bubble of being this great team that can have big games. They're fun to watch, and they've never just quite broken into that top 10, top 15 teams, I feel like. And I genuinely think that they can get there. And I think Tim might be what they need in order to have those big wins and make those big plays for next year. So really excited he can do for them.
I think you hit on both sides perfectly. I think it is a big loss for Arizona State, but a huge win for a Hopkins program that seemed to just, like you said, they were just kind of stale, in my opinion. They were always there, but they couldn't get to the next step. And so you have a new voice coming in, new voices. He brought his entire coaching staff with him from Arizona State. I think that's a program that might surprise some people in year one because he was at Arizona State. He's going to Hopkins. He's going to be able to do really good things with that program. And then if you give him a few years, he'll start to get his kind of players in. And what he built at Arizona State was incredible. So what he's going to do at Hopkins, I think, will be really good. It'll just be interesting to see the timeline. And sticking with Arizona State, they might win the Pac-12 this year. I mean, they are a legit good team. Okay. They have their goalie coming back, who's a true freshman last year. She was a rock star. Okay. They have the Gaspar sisters coming back who lock it down on defense. Okay. They are a team that is just exciting. They're a new program in the world of women's lacrosse, pretty new. Just burst into the national spotlight the past few years. And Taryn Banthoff, coming from Florida, She knows how to win. She was under Amanda O'Leary, who's one of the most respected coaches in the country. She's built a superstar staff, Caroline Wakefield and Haley Warden as her assistants, both professional players. And one last thing on Tim McCormick. I spoke to a D1 head coach, and she said that she probably has more respect for Tim McCormick right now than any other coach in the country for what he did at Arizona State and for how his teams are always prepared to play, for how his teams, how they play the game. And she said it's a reflection on how he coaches and how great of a coach he is. And so for him to get that kind of praise, and he hasn't even been in an NCAA tournament yet. So him going to Hopkins is going to strengthen the Big Ten. It's going to strengthen lacrosse in the Baltimore area on the women's side. And I think it's going to be very exciting. I hope we get to a time where Maryland and Hopkins are 1A, you know, I want it to be a rivalry that it should be for the state of Maryland. Obviously, Northwestern is always going to be there. But if you can get that going, the turnout that would get in the state of Maryland, I think would be incredible. You saw how Maryland fans showed up at the Final Four at Hopkins 2 years in a row. Okay. Imagine if Hopkins gets there. They haven't been there in a while. Their fans would be going crazy. They would be like, they've been sitting in the desert for 20 years. They haven't even touched this piece of steak. They got to eat. Okay. So that'll be exciting. Sticking in the Pac-12, I've got an interesting one for you. Okay. And I really want to get your opinion on something when it comes to Cal, the Golden Bears. Okay. So they hired Jennifer Wong. And she was an associate head coach at Temple. So we already talked about Temple earlier. We both have a lot of respect for that program. And I think everyone does. They're just a really good program, consistently good. So she moves from Temple to Cal. And Cal, they have amazing facilities. They're in a beautiful part of the country. Their campus is second to none. Okay. There's no reason why Cal can't be a good program, can't be a great program, especially out west. You see what UC Davis is doing with much less. They're doing much more with much less. So Cal, the potential is there. Okay, the potential is there. But one question I have and one concern I have about the Cal program that I hope this gets changed with the new head coach, a lot of their players are in sororities, which I in no other D1 sport do you see players in fraternities or sororities if they're a D1 athlete. I just feel like that doesn't mesh well, and it's never really sat well with me. And I feel like you can't do both. You know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts on that?
So we had one girl actually, Haley Warden's sister, Rachel Warden. She did a sorority and played lacrosse on my team. I personally couldn't do it just because I think that both of them are a very large time commitment. And I think your kind of head's always in two different directions, like two different headspaces at the same time. And that would be something that I think like takes, it's like when you can't be great at two things. You can't be perfect at two things. You can be very like average at two things. I feel like it's kind of a situation like that, where if you're constantly being driven in two different directions that are both incredibly time consuming things, it makes it hard to commit to either of them. So I personally couldn't do it. I don't know if I would encourage it. If I was somebody who was going to the collegiate level and they asked me, I would probably tell them no, to be honest with you, just because of that dynamic. But I think that some people, if it's what they want to do, it's what they want to do. And you can definitely make it work. It's not something that's impossible. But I do think that could be hurting Cal for sure, to have all of them, all their players in a sorority. I think it's okay if one or two of them probably, but for the whole team, it feels like the whole team, then their focus would be divided, which would be tough.
For sure. So I'm interested to see what Cal does. I'm rooting for their new head coach. So it will be interesting to see what changes she makes, if she makes any. So that'll be fun to see. Moving on to conference changes, we had a few. The most noticeable ones are with the CAA, Karson Harris's previous home with the Drexel. So James Madison no longer in the CAA. Stony Brook is in. Quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the CAA is definitely going to miss James Madison. I think they brought a lot to the table when it came to CAAs. I like their style of play was always nice to play against. It wasn't ever anything like too aggressive or anything like that. So I think the CAA is going to miss JMU in our conference. But I think Stony Brook is also a huge addition for us, just in terms of caliber and bringing this conference to the next level. It does have the potential, I think, with Drexel on the rise, Towson, even schools like Elon, and Hofstra. I think that those schools have so much potential. And I think being in the CAA, Stony Brook being in the CAA can help kind of rally everybody around the conference and start to look at those teams and take them a little bit more seriously. And so I'm excited. I'm excited that Stony Brook is in the conference. I think they're going to give Drexel a run for their money, but I'm going to be excited to see it. But we are definitely going to miss JMU. They were a good component of the conference for sure.
I'm not saying this to make you mad, but Drexel is not going to beat Stony Brook next year. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Okay.
Listen, I can't go against them.
So Stony Brook, I think it's great for them. They were in the America East for the longest time, and nothing against that conference, but it's just not very good. It was Stony Brook and no one else. Okay. They're going to a conference with more depth. I wish JMU was staying in the conference so you would have Stony Brook and JMU and Drexel in the same conference. That would be super exciting. But anyways, I think even though James Madison won the national championship a few years ago, I think just based on where the programs are, I think right now Stony Brook is a better program and a consistently greater threat to make a tournament run than James Madison. So, and obviously if you don't already know, James Madison left the conference because they wanted to go D1 in football and all their other sports. So they joined the Sun Belt, and the CAA was like, well, you're not going to be able to stay in this conference and compete for a conference championship. So that's why JMU left. And they go to the American Conference, which will be very exciting because you have Florida in that conference. You have Temple, you have Vanderbilt, who's building something great. Their goalie Gunning, absolutely love her. She's amazing. And I love what Vanderbilt's doing. You have ECU, who's building up their program each year. They're slowly getting better. I think the American is becoming one of the best conferences outside of the the ACC and the Big Ten. So I'm very much looking forward to that conference. So yeah, the CAA I think got better, and I think the American Conference got better. I think they both got better. So
I agree. I also think so having played both JMU and Florida at this point, I think that game's going to be a battle. I think that they play very similar styles, and they both are going to have a lot to lose, I think, walking into that game. So that conference game is going to be one to watch, I think, because I think they're going to be very well matched on both sides of the field. And I think that could be a heck of a game.
For sure.
I'm excited for it.
They should open the season with that game. Fireworks right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
I think we should hold it. I think we should do it at the end. That way it's all the pressure. Everything's intense.
That's true. Either way works for me. Either way works for me. So just to go over a few other changes. So Eastern Michigan, as we talked about, they're joining the MAC for their first season. Then Mount St. Mary's is joining the MAC with 2 A's, MAAC. So they left it, I believe it was the Northeastern Conference.
Yeah.
For the MAAC. You have Clemson joining the ACC in women's lacrosse for their first season this year, which will be interesting. I have an odd feeling that it's not going to go as well for them as it went for Pitt, but that's just
yeah. We'll see. I will see. I mean, Paige Petty helped out Pitt so much. I think she was a huge help for them, and I haven't gotten a chance to really look through the Clemson players yet. Yeah. But I agree. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll hold their own against a lot of teams in it. The ACC is a tough one to join. I think that you're just joining the ACC in general. You're just setting yourself
Thrown
up
in the fire.
Yeah, you really are hitting the ground running, I think, joining the ACC. So that'll be tough for them for sure. But we'll cross our fingers.
Even the bottom 2 teams in the ACC, whoever you think they are, they're better than teams in mostly every other conference. So, I mean, the ACC it's the best conference in sport. It is just deep. Okay. And also ACC, Virginia hired Allie Kennedy. So she's going to be bringing some of that Stony Brook, swag and energy. And I'm going to beat your ass on the field to that team, which they need it because they're a little soft. I'm sorry, but that'll be good. I'm excited to watch Virginia. And also I've been seeing some stuff on social media. She's been playing with them in practice, going against them. She's probably trucking a few people, she's letting them know what's up. So I'm excited for Virginia. They got to be better this year. They were good last year. Amazing. Went to the tournament. I'm excited to see what they do this year. Also, shout out Ashlyn McGovern. She's a beast. Okay, I love her. She is not soft. Okay, she is not soft. She's a beast. She's I think it's her 5th year. She's fun to watch. She can rip it with the best of them. Okay, and she's got some range for days. Okay, I love her. Okay. Last little note about the conference changes. So, and this leads right into our next subject. With two Division II teams jumping to Division I, they both are going to the ASUN conference. The two teams are Lindenwood and Queens. And for those of you who do not know, both are these teams were D2 national championship contenders each year. It was a little bit of a down year for Lindenwood last year. They lost in the first round of the tournament. Year before, they won the national championship. Who did they beat? They beat Queens. Okay, 14-12. Now you have both joining the same conference, both making the jump to Division I. Out of everything I'm looking forward to this year, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how these two teams do more than anything, because we're going to find out, and this is the question I want answered. I think a lot of people do. How big of a gap is there between the D2's best and D1 middle of the pack? That's what we are going to find out. You hear all the time, I don't want to say all the time, but you hear from some people that, oh, there's not a big gap between D1, D2, or D2, D3. Well, we're about to find out. Same with Molly LaLiberty going to Northwestern if she wins the job. And if she doesn't win the job, I don't think that tells us anything, because Northwestern, they have great players. So anyways, sticking with Lindenwood and Queens, it's going to be interesting. They're in the ASUN, not a great conference, not a bad conference, just kind of middle of the pack. They have good teams, Jacksonville, Liberty, Coastal Carolina was good a few years ago to have a new head coach entering her second season. That'll be interesting to see. But Lindenwood and Queens. Okay, I have some numbers for you, Karson, and I'm going to let you take the floor. Okay. Over the last 3 seasons, including the COVID-shortened season, Lindenwood went 41-7, okay, won a national championship. Queens, 40-3, okay, I'll say that again, 40-3. Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, that is just insane. That's just insane. So what are your thoughts on Lindenwood and Queens going from D2 to D1?
I think they're going to be just fine, to be honest with you. I don't know. I also can't answer the question about how the D2s best match up with the D1s middle of the pack, but I do know that they'll match up just fine with teams like, I mean, even like Delaware State, you have Radford, Merrimack, like they will be they're not going to be like anywhere. I don't think they'll be on the bottom. I'm going to tell you that. I think they're going to be just fine. And now middle of the pack, I'm not sure. I think the game against like ECU, I think their Coastal Carolina game, I think those kinds of games are what's going to be really interesting and kind of help determine how they are doing. I don't know their schedule obviously yet, but it would be interesting to see them play Iona, American, like those kinds of schools. That's where I, in my opinion, would put them, especially Queens. I think that's where they could kind of fit in. I think when you start to get a little bit higher, like UMBCs, the Lehighs, those schools, I think would probably be tough for them at this point, obviously, but those are your 50 to 60 range schools. Like I think that, which I guess is kind of considered middle of the pack. So I guess I wouldn't put them quite middle of the pack, especially their first season. Maybe 5 years, 6 years down the road, I think that they could definitely get there. But I do think that I could see them in that 70 to 80 range, probably somewhere along those lines with the schools like Iona, American, but definitely ahead of some of the ones on the very bottom also. So I'm very excited. I'm excited for those girls. I think playing at the D1 level is going to be such a fun experience for them. And they have worked so hard for it at this point. Like they've gotten there, they've proved themselves. I mean, 40-3 is incredible. And you can lose to schools all the time and you're better than them. So I think to be 40-3 shows like how much better you are, because you can, if you're close with teams, you go 3 years, you'll lose one of the 3 games you play against them, even if you're close. So I think to go 40-3, even 41-7, like I'm saying that like that's less. Those are still incredible. That's still an incredible record for the last 3 seasons. And so those girls have obviously worked really hard for it. I'm really excited for them to get to play at the D1 level. And I do think they're going to be just fine. I think that we might not have a winning season, but it'll definitely be a season that proves that they deserve to be here, at least.
I think one of them will have a winning season, but I'm not going to say who. Which do you think is better positioned for their first season at the Division I level? Lindenwood, who won the national championship 2 years ago, or Queens, who was the better of the 2 teams last year?
I'm hesitant to. I want to say Lindenwood, only because of the new head coach change in Queens. Because I think that new head coaches are always a scary thing, and I think that I stand by that. And And so I'm hesitant because Lindenwood, you have a down year and first round of NCAA tournament. You never like had they won that, they might have gone all the way. Just you can have an off game. So I'm hesitant to count them out because of that loss in the first round. And I think having a consistency with that, because there's already going to be so many changes, even going from D2 to D1, like they're going to be practicing more. They're going to be doing probably more lifts. So there's things that change to, like administration wise from the D2 to the D1 level also. So I think with all those changes being thrown at the girls with playing tougher teams, I think a consistent head coach will be what puts Lindenwood over Queens, in my opinion.
Yeah, interesting. So obviously everything you said makes total sense. But I'm going to say, obviously, you're more qualified to speak to this than me. So you can just tune me out here. I'm going to use your exact same argument and say that's why I think Queens is better positioned. And I'll tell you why. Okay. Because their new head coach, Kelly McQuilkin, she's been at the D1 level her entire career, okay? She played at not Hofstra, excuse me. She played at Towson. She's been an assistant at High Point, who's dominated the Big South up until last year when the Mercer Bears came rolling into town. Okay, anyways. So she's been at the D1 level. She knows what it takes. And so I believe she is going to be a great I don't want to say transition, but she's going to help them transition. The reason I don't want to say transition is because I don't want to make it seem like she's only there for the short term. She is going to help them transition, and I believe she's going to help them build on what Claire Short, great head coach, has already done. So I believe because of her D1 experience, and she's just the nicest person ever. I mean, if you've ever met her, she is the nicest person ever, okay? She's an assistant on the Uganda national team, lacrosse team, okay? Super soft-spoken. She is the nicest person. You can't meet her and not like her. I mean, and if you do, you're a fool, okay? So anyways, I believe that Queens, because of her experience, is going to have a better season at the D1 level. She knows what to expect, and she'll be able to relay that to her players. Lindenwood, on the other hand, their coaching staff is consistent. They're consistent, but they've all been at the D2 level. Now they're going to D1, and it's a whole other ball game. The intensity is going to be higher. The stress is going to be higher. Like you said, there's more that goes into it with practice hours and weight room, working out. There's more that you can do at the D1 level. You have more time with the players. And so I feel like that might be a little bit of an adjustment. How do you balance that, Because you're already around the players a certain amount. And especially for players that have been on Lindenwood's team for a few years, now they're just going to be around each other for a few more hours each day. And that could be a lot. So...
All right. How about this? I will give you Queens will start off the season hotter. I think Queens will come in the first 5 games. I bet Queens is looking like the better team. And then I think you give the Lindenwood coaches time with their players who they know after they've adjusted. I bet my guess. Queens starts off hot. Lindenwood finishes better. That's my final take.
Interesting. We might have to put a poll on Instagram to see who agrees with who.
You're right.
This is great. It's going to be very fascinating to see how they play this year, and how it's also just exciting to see new teams at the D1 level. Growth of the sport is what we're all rooting for and what we all want, and parity in the sport. And we're not just getting 2 middle of the pack D2 teams. We're getting 2 of the best D2 teams there are. So they're going to start off, and we'll see how they do. Yeah, so I will end with this for me, and then I'll give it to you. So last season, what I was looking forward to most is Pittsburgh, and they were super fun to watch. This year, what I'm looking forward to most is Queens and Lindenwood. How do they perform? I just think it's so fascinating because you just don't get this very often in any sport. And if you do, it normally, I don't know, I just feel like you don't get this caliber of these caliber of teams going to another division. So I'm very interested to see how it plays out. So thoughts on the first episode of The Player and the Journalist for yourself?
Well, I love that I'm here. I had such a good time. I'm so excited. And I think the thing that should I say what I'm looking forward to the most?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. I think, honestly, this is kind of out of left field, but I think I'm really looking forward to watching Emma Ward come back in general for Syracuse, because I think that Syracuse has just been riddled with injury for so long. Like their past 2 years have been so tough. They just keep having people go down. And I think she was like just getting started. And I was so sad that she got hurt last year. So I think for the Division I level right now for me is I'm really excited to see what she can do for Syracuse in the coming year. So
absolutely. In Syracuse, they need to, whatever they're doing with their athletic trainers, they need to get it fixed because they have more ACLs go down and flat tires go down on a bumpy road. Okay. They got to get it fixed. So
we need new turf over at the field.
All right, awesome. So that is episode 11 of The Player and the Journalist.